Another day, another dollar. You know how I grind. It's another episode of the Easy Corner. My guest, I don't really know how to describe this man in words, but he's one of the best coaches, not only in Fort Bend, but one of the best coaches in the state of Texas. A multiple-time Coach of the Year in the district. 2018 National Coach of the Year. A guy that's known me almost half my life. At 13 years old, as a seventh grader at Laco, I attended Elkins High School. But my guest, head coach of the Elkins Knights. I don't even sound right calling him his first name, so I'm just going to say Coach Thomas. Welcome, Coach Thomas, to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it.
Coach, we always usually kind of start off with an icebreaker on this show. So, Coach, I would tell you, you were the most requested person to come on this show. Everybody wanted to see, like, you got to get Coach T. You got to get Coach T. So I know that's what I was working on. So, but I would say this: tell us something that the ordinary people like myself don't know about you.
I majored in industrial engineering at Texas A&M University. So I have an industrial engineering degree from Texas A&M. Never worked as an industrial engineer, but I do have that degree.
Okay. Talk about those times, like at A&M, obviously as an industrial engineer. Obviously, Coach, you're a basketball coach, but you're a high-level educator, an algebra teacher at that. Just talk about like that importance of the education that you kind of just stress all over.
Well, I had an engineering scholarship to go to A&M, and so education was my way of getting into school. Loved basketball, played it. I was a walk-on my second year at A&M for a semester, but my grades faltered, and I decided that I needed to concentrate more on the classroom than on the basketball end of things, and so I did that. But basketball was always a love of mine, and played a lot of basketball, pickup, intramural, and things like that to kind of satisfy my need for the game of basketball, while trying to also pursue an education, thinking that eventually I was going to be an engineer.
Coach, just talk about where it started for you, for your passion of basketball, because I don't know if there's a coach that is as competitive, attention to detail as you. I've seen a lot of coaches, and I don't know if there is anybody on that level that I've seen, like your passion and your competitiveness. When did that start?
Well, I just think I was just competitive in general. I always tell the story. I had an older brother, 16, 17 years older than me, and I was a Cowboy fan, and he was a Washington Redskins fan. And so he would always tease me when the Cowboys would lose, and to the fact that I would start crying. And my mother would say, "Oh, it's okay, baby. Somebody's got to lose." And I said, "Well, why's it got to be me?" And so I always kind of took that I didn't like to lose. And it was like, why do I have to be the one losing? And so, I think that kind of started my competitive spirit. But I just fell in love with basketball because, somebody said this a while back, and I never thought about it. But, sometimes you don't choose the sport, but the sport chooses you. And I think basketball chose me. I was a football guy when I was younger until I got to high school, and I dedicated myself to basketball, and I just fell in love with the game. I fell in love with the finer points of it, and I remember my high school coach, he gave me a clinic notebook. This is back in the late 70s, from where he went to a coaching clinic, and some of the greats who coached basketball at that time, college coaches, it had their plays and their sets and things of that nature, fast break, how to run a transition, how to run a press. And I read that, and when I opened it, I just fell in love with the idea about, the game and the intricacies of the game of basketball. So it's kind of like I kind of put that in line with math. I fell in love with math by opening up a textbook when I was in 3rd or 4th grade and looking at all the problems and saying, man, if I learn this, I'll be smart. And so when I opened up that book about basketball, it's like, man, if I can understand this, I'll be great and understand the game of basketball. So that's why it's, for me, the part of teaching math and teaching basketball is putting the two loves of my life together.
I love that, Coach. Coach, talk about your upbringing, because, at the end of the day, Coach, a lot of people know you as just literally Coach Thomas, and I want to say I appreciate you of you kind of just taking the time out to do this and stuff like that. But talk about your upbringing and like where you're from and like you said, high schools in the 70s and stuff like that. So obviously you probably endured a lot. So kind of just talk about that a little bit.
I'm from Corpus Christi, Texas.
Okay.
Raised by a single mother. Had a sister that was a year older than me, and my brother, who I mentioned, who was like 17, 18 years older than us. And so we were raised in a small 3-bedroom house. And I tell the players all the time, I know nothing but hard work, because I saw my mother get up early every morning. She was a cook, and she would get up early in the morning every day and go to work. I don't remember her taking off days. It just seemed like she was, of course you have 2 days off, 5 days on or whatever, but she went to work, no sick days or anything like that. So I was brought up in that type of atmosphere, but I always say I was fortunate that I had great teachers and coaches as I grew up, and they took a lot of time out with me and my sister, and helped us along in trying to prepare to go to college. My 9th grade English teacher, my sister and I were in the same grade together after my 1st grade year. I got moved up to be in the same grade with her. And so from 3rd grade on, we were in the same grade. And so our 9th grade teacher told us what we needed to do once we hit high school. At that time, high school was 10th, 11th, and 12th in our district. And so she said, when you get to 10th grade, take this test, take these tests, take PSAT, take SAT, take ACT, take this one twice, apply for these schools and things of that nature, because we're pretty good students. And so we followed that game plan. But there was other teachers along the way who took time out with us and realized that, we had a pretty good opportunity to be good students, and helped us along the way. And so that kind of really is how I kind of got into the education part of it. I kind of always, after I started reading that clinic notebook, thought I might want to coach, but I didn't know if I wanted to teach, because teachers that I knew at that time were coaches of social study teachers and PE teachers, and I knew I had no interest in any of that.
Of course.
So,
Coach, how does Corpus Christi represent still, obviously you probably haven't lived in Corpus Christi for a long time, but how does Corpus Christi still represent you as who you are today? and stuff like that, and like just the environment in the community, you growing up there, how does it still represent you today?
Well, it teaches me to accept different people from different backgrounds because I never went to a school where I never went to a predominantly black high school. My schools were either predominantly Hispanic or Hispanic and white schools, and so you know, I learned to get along with different people of different cultures, and so that's kind of how I am here. That's why Elkins is really good for me because it has a diverse population, and I'm just always interested in learning about the different people that I have in my classroom or that I coach, and so you know, I think that that's part of who I am and where it comes from is from my upbringing.
Coach, what kind of basketball player were you?
I tell guys all the time,
Yeah.
I said, you know, and I show you, I averaged 18 points my senior year in high school.
Okay.
And we had
What high school, Coach? What high school?
Ray High School.
Ray High School. Or
WB Ray.
Okay.
We had no three-point shot. I was a mid-range kind of a guy. You know, I feel like I was a scorer, not a shooter. But when I was in high school and this came into my coaching, I knew what everybody was supposed to do. I was really a wing type player, and so, but on defense, I knew where everybody was supposed to be. I knew who everybody's matchup was going to be when subs were made. I could tell this guy to guard this guy to guard that guy and whatnot. And so I felt like I was a good basketball player. I made all district, all area team my senior year. So it was a good time. Back then, you know, my grades were ahead of my basketball ability.
Okay.
So I knew I could go. I got accepted to Texas, Texas A&M, Vanderbilt on academic basis and scholarships, and I knew either any of those other two schools, I was going to go there to be an engineer as well, but I chose to stay closer to home because be close to my mom in Corpus. My sister went to Yale.
Ooh.
Yeah, and so she was leaving to go off far from home, so I decided I would stay close to home, be closer to my mother. So, getting back to the basketball part of it, so I knew I wasn't going to go to A&M and get a scholarship to go there or with Texas or any of those schools. So, you know, I did walk on my second year there, and like I said, I was there for a semester. But I knew that, you know, education was going to be where
Was there any possibility, even though we know you were high academically, but was there any schools that were looking at you for basketball?
No.
Okay.
Because, you know, I didn't know anything growing up about Division II, Division III. JUCO at that time for me was not a
because your grades.
Because my grades. Yeah. So I just decided wherever I went to school is where I would try to walk on. And so that led me to those types of schools. And I said, well, I'll just try to give it a try if I go there. So, you know, probably had I been, you know, of this era, I probably would have tried to go to a smaller school and try to play at a smaller school. But everything happens for a reason, and so the people that I came in contact with through going to A&M, very, very, very influential in my life, and so I have no regrets to part.
Coach, and I like how you say that, and I want to ask you a question. Coach, do you believe to be a good coach, you had to kind of just play the game at a high level, or like do you have, because obviously like you said, you were at you played A&M for like one semester, but I just feel like a lot of even great coaches, they weren't necessarily the stars, or they weren't necessarily like the mainstream guy. That's why I feel like with great players, I don't think they make good coaches because they think their players are them. So can you do you feel like enabled to? I feel like the good coaches are hidden gems, and that's what I was saying.
I just think whoever it is somebody's got to, one, have a love for the game, and then a love for learning the game. And, you know, and so I think, okay, if I had to make a comparison, what I had to learn as a teacher, and we talked about this earlier, I had to learn as a teacher, because math came easy to me, I had to learn to teach the kids in a way where they were, not in the way that I learned. And I think as a basketball coach, if you're a high-level basketball player, they would need to realize that the players are not them, and that they have to teach them things that came easy to them. So going back to me, the game, I worked on it, and so I tried to coach guys in a way that I would want somebody to coach me, teach them things that I wish somebody taught me or want somebody to have taught me. And so I think anybody can be good at whatever they decide to do. It's just a matter of you putting the time and the effort into it. And so for me, whatever, success I've had is because I love the game, and I've always wanted to study it, and it really wasn't ever a chore for me.
Yeah.
Because even when we were sitting around in college just kicking it, me and the guys that I hung around with, we were all lovers of the game of basketball, and we just sat around, and no matter what we were doing, we were talking about the game of basketball. Into the night, talking about coaches. I grew up in the era of John Thompson and people like that, Bobby Knight, somebody Dean Smith, Four Corners, all that kind of stuff. You just studied those guys and knew those guys. And
in that era, what was kind of like your favorite in that 80s? Because, we know what the Big East was doing. We know the ACC, I think Coach K was coming along, Denny Crum at Louisville. So, what was your favorite style in that 80s era? Because that's when I really believe college basketball really kind of took off in the 80s.
I was a big fan of John Thompson.
Oh, John Thompson. Okay.
And I was a big John Thompson fan, but I was a Denny Crum fan. It's funny you mentioned that.
Yeah.
Because Denny Crum in the 221 press, he coached underneath John Wooden, who I admire, and so I knew he was there. And so I looked at how they pressed and what they did, but I also liked John Thompson, full court, 1-2-1-1 press, and all that kind of stuff. So all those guys I like Bobby Knight, man-to-man, full court, motion offense, and things of that nature. And so it was just so many people. Then you go on to professional ranks. I was a big Pat Riley fan.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Because the way and especially the way that he was able to adapt. I always tell people, I think Pat Riley in New York was different than Pat Riley in LA.
Yeah, and I'm a Pat Riley in LA.
Yeah.
Because I was a Magic. Well, my two favorite NBA players were first Lou Alcindor.
Okay,
Kareem.
Okay.
And then Magic Johnson.
Okay.
And so it couldn't come better than when they put them two, ended up on the same team with the Lakers. So I'm a Showtime Laker fan. And
but it's funny, Coach, that you would say that you're a Showtime Laker fan, but you can argue your style is almost like the Celtics. You could argue because the way you guys play hard, because Coach, you've had some memorable quotes. I like my ice cream, no sprinkles. I like so lay it up. I don't need that. So you've had some memorable quotes in Elkins history.
I tell the players that all the time. I say, you wouldn't know it, but I like fast break basketball. When I played, we would want to play fast break, kick it up, get layups and things like that. And I still like that. But in high school, you don't always have those kind of players. So you got to adapt. So you have to adapt to what type of players you have. So that's what I learned to do. And also I learned I like sharing of the basketball. And so I just wanted teams that shared the basketball. But the way Magic and them played, it was just beautiful. And so I was was definitely not a Celtic fan,
Yeah.
but I do appreciate the way that they played the game of basketball.
Coach, I want you to answer this question. I think you're the first coach I've asked this question. Do you believe Texas needs a shot clock?
You know, at one time I would have said no, but I really would like to see it when they've put out surveys and polls and things like that about do you want to see a shot clock, and I would like to see a shot clock. One time over at St. Thomas, we went over there and played, and they had a shot clock, you know, during the spring, and we played in that, and the shot clock never really came into effect. In terms of, you know, shot clock violations or anything like that. I think that you can play at a pace. I also like it because I didn't like it, you know, when teams would hold the ball and just make you work on defense.
But Coach, we can argue that you adopted the same style down the stretch, Coach.
Yeah.
You
learn to use the rules to your advantage. If those are the rules, and here's one of my quotes. I know the rules of Monopoly, so I'm gonna play by the rules of Monopoly. so whatever those rules are, I'm gonna use those rules to my advantage.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Coach, your journey of high school basketball coaching, where did it begin?
It began in Bryan, Texas, after Bryan College Station, A&M. I student taught in Bryan at a middle school there, and so I was fortunate. They wanted to hire me because they wanted a black male to be a math teacher, and so I student taught in the fall. They kept me on as a sub in the spring, with the thought that I would come in the next year and teach and coach there, teach there, you know, with the possibility of coaching. So they hired me, and I went in with the idea that I would talk to the guy who's the coordinator, and he brought me in, and so I was at Stephen F. Austin Middle School. It was the 8th and 9th grade school in Bryan, and so that's where I got my first start. Coaching football and basketball and anything else, track here and there. So I was in Bryan for the first 5 years, working my way up through the system in coaching.
Coach, you say you're a football coach. I want to know what kind of football coach you are. Are you up-tempo?
Well, I tell you once again, because I didn't set any of those things up.
Okay.
Because the schools where I was, we ran in Bryan, we ran the system that the high school ran.
Oh, okay.
And so they tell you what plays to run, what to do, you know, all this. And so, you know, old school me was that I knew all of my basketball coaches coached football. So I felt like I was going to have to coach football. And I did like football. So I didn't play in high school and stopped when I was in the 9th grade. But I always followed football. So I felt like I was going to have to do that. And so my first 5 years there, I worked my way up to JV coach. And then I took a job, a town called Tatum.
Tatum. Yeah.
Tatum just won 3A state championship.
They beat my boy Grayson Rigdon in Columbus. Yeah, okay, yes.
So I was there, and I got that job because I could coach football. I was working a camp up in Lindale, Texas. A friend of mine who I coached with, he had gone there to be an assistant coach, and they had a head job at Tatum. So they told them they were looking for somebody to do football, basketball. So I got hired there, and I was a head coach there for 4 years. And so arguably football helped me get my first head coaching job in basketball.
Where was that at?
That's Tatum.
Tatum. Okay.
Tatum.
How was those years at Tatum?
They were good. Well, my first year we won 3 games. So they had won maybe a total of 2 games the 2 previous years to me coming there.
Yeah.
We won our first game there. But here's the thing, Tatum was a really, really good football school. So we played South Lake Carroll in the state semifinals. So I played, and so there was no off-season basketball. We didn't play our first football game until right before Christmas. Our first basketball game until right before Christmas. And so we won it, playing the tournament, and then we came back. I don't say we were 3-13, so we played 16 games that year. And so the next year, had some other good guys. I think we went to 2 rounds deep, played a few more games. And my last year there, so the first 2 years we didn't make the playoffs. My last 2 years we made the playoffs. We were district champs my 3rd year there, and we were district runner-up my last year there in basketball. But in football, my last year there, we played the state championship game in football against Sealy. So our first game in basketball wasn't until after Christmas. And so, but we made it to the playoffs. Each year that we made it to the playoffs when I was in Tatum, we lost in the first round. But I was doing more football than basketball, because as soon as basketball was over, you went straight into all-season football and track. And Tatum also was really, really good at track. And so they were big on that and won some state championship track. So they were really good years, because I coached some really good athletes there. A kid that played in the NFL, Travion Smith, some other kids that came through that ended up going on to the NFL, but it was a good experience. I said I could stay there, except for the fact that I was just doing too much football.
Oh, so that's because that was going to be my next question. Like, why did you decide to? Yeah,
I left and I went to Grand Prairie to become an assistant for.
What year was this around? When
this was in 97, 98.
Okay.
So 93 to 97, I was in Tatum, and then 97 till I came here in 05, I was in Grand Prairie. Probably the most influential person for me in terms of coaching is a guy by the name of Barry Davis. He was an assistant coach at A&M when I walked on. He became the head coach in Bryan my first year there as a full-time teacher. So we knew each other. We had and so I worked with him for 5 years. Then he ended up in Grand Prairie, and I worked there with him for 8 years.
Talk about those times, because Coach, that's when Dallas. You saw it all, like what? Dallas, Lincoln, the Colony, Duncanville was still dominant at that kind of that time. It was like Dallas was still how it is now. It was still the hotbed then. So talk about those wars and you seeing players like that in that 8-year stretch, and talk about like some of the playoff games you went through with South Grand Prairie.
Oh, not South Grand Prairie. That's a war.
Oh, Grand Prairie. I'm sorry.
Grand Prairie.
I can't. You're right.
So saw some really good players. Saw Darren Williams when he was at the Colony.
Yes, sir. Bracy
Wright.
Yes, sir.
Man, you know your history.
Coach, you know me. Coach,
we came through at that time, had some really good players. We were in different districts.
Yeah, but
they moved us around because we were in the Colony's district for 1 year, and then we were in district with Duncanville 2 years. We were in Irving Schools district, but some really good players from there. I can't remember what the kid's name, but Duncanville had a post player who was really good that went on to play at Maryland. That he won the national championship with Gary Williams. He was a post player on that team right there. But saw some really, really good players in that area. Darrell Arthur. Got a chance to see him play. I originally met Coach Martinez. Coach Martinez was an assistant coach at DeSoto.
Yeah.
And so DeSoto came over to our place and played tournament playoff games there. And so that's originally where I met Coach Martinez. Was in that area. So it was lots of good experience while we were there. The last 2 years we were in the playoffs, got a chance to go to regional tournament. Kid by the name of Brian Davis, Coach Davis's nephew, ended up playing at A&M. He was a player on that team. He was a junior the year I think we made it to the regional tournament, and that's right before I came here. And so just good old-fashioned basketball there. A lot of, and so going to the state tournament and seeing the wars between the Dallas area schools and the Houston area schools.
Coach, please don't do this right now, because I am still upset right now. So I just like the fact that 5-0. I couldn't rest on Saturday, Coach. It was a long day for me on Saturday. Then, Coach, obviously, you come to Elkins, 2005, 2006 season. But before I ask you that, Coach, in the midst of all this, when did you actually meet your wife?
I met my wife in '93.
Okay.
She was a coach.
Okay.
So I met her at TABC Clinic in San Antonio.
Okay.
So she was there at the clinic, attending it as a coach, and I was there attending it as a coach. And so it was funny because after one of the clinic sessions, I just went up to her, introduced myself, started talking. All my buddies right there with me, And so, we met, and she was with a friend of hers. Yeah. And so we were saying, me and my buddies, we going out, y'all want to come, go with us. Yeah. She was their friend, but she goes, well, I'm here with my mother. My mother's here too. And she reminded me of this the other day, talking to my daughter. And I said, that's okay, bring her along with you. And so her mother and her friend went to eat with us that night. And so we met, and so we started dating and everything after that. And so her father has the same, her father passed away, rest in peace, has the same birthday as me.
Yeah, Coach, your birthday was, did it pass or was it coming up?
It just passed.
Happy belated birthday, Coach.
So we had the same birthday. And so, so it was, he's a retired football coach.
Okay.
So I understood. At that time, I said if I was in a relationship with someone, again, it would be someone who understood the nature of coaching.
But Coach, the thing about it is, I don't think I've ever seen her miss a game. I don't think she's never missed a game. And the thing is, she's almost more passionate than you. I see her in the stands. I just saw you last week, Coach, at the Brendan and the Bel Air game. She's assessing the game. She knows what's going on. Yep. It almost is like I look at you, Coach, and then I look up in the stands and see where she's up. What's going on? Yeah. So I've seen it.
She played college basketball.
Okay.
She played college basketball at what was then called UT Pan Am.
Okay.
And so she was coaching basketball when we met. And so she has a passion for the game of basketball as well.
Coach, and that's what I kind of just want to get to. Just to have that person in your corner going to move literally from Tatum to Grand Prairie to Houston. Just talk about her commitment and, making sure, it's possible to kind of achieve your dreams. How much has that meant to you over the last almost maybe 30 plus years?
I always say, because her mother was the same, is a special place in heaven for coaches' wives, because the things that they have to put up with, the time, but they allow us to be away from home, raising other kids, doing all that kind of stuff, taking them to functions when we're trying to do what we can. She's really good about things, because she'll say, and remember the times when we were in Grand Prairie, at the time she started working for Target, and she was in management for Target. And so I did a lot of picking up the kids and dropping them off at daycare, dropping them off at school. And they always went somewhere close to where I worked. So I could do all of that. And so while we were in Grand Prairie, that's kind of the way it was. I did a lot of, my daughter always says, why did I always put her hair up in ponytails and pigtails? Because that's the only way I knew how to fix her hair. Yeah. And so, we did things like that. So when I decided to start applying for head jobs, it was with the understanding with us that if we needed to do something different, that she would make a change. Plus, she was looking to get back into education, you know, and so she could get out of the management part of Target because that was taking up a lot of time as well. And so when we came here, there was opportunities for her to become an elementary PE teacher, and so that's what she decided to do. And so then it worked out from there where she, you know, she would be on the same calendar work schedule as me in terms of education and things like that. And so she's always been in my corner, and she's a fighter, that's for sure.
We know. Yeah. Coach, you decide to, like I said, come to Elkins. We know that you're a historian, so you've heard about the Fort Bend district. Obviously, this is in the midst of like Willow Ridge. Well, before Willow Ridge had just kind of went to state. I think Marshall was probably 2 years old. Hightower was gaining steam. Clements, Dulles, and then, you know, Kempner on the other side. What made the fit right for you to come to Elkins?
It was good fortune.
Okay.
I heard of Willow Ridge and Fort Bend and all of that because, you know, seeing Coach Nichols, Coach Courtney, and them go to state because I would attend state tournaments and all like that. Knew Hightower had been there and whatnot, and it was a fluke because when I was up in Dallas, I was a Dallas guy at that time.
Yeah.
And so a friend of mine was college roommate of mine was assistant superintendent here, and so, you know, I wasn't going to apply here, you know, because I didn't want to come to Houston, but the job Austin opened up first. I didn't apply for it, and then Elkins opened up, and I said maybe God was sending me a word because I had interviewed up in the Dallas area and hadn't gotten a job, and so I said, let me throw my name in the hat, talk to my friend, got an interview, and it all worked out. And so when I came here and I came to Open Gym, I was going like, man, I had no idea that it was these kind of players here. And so it was an eye-opener for me. And so, you know, people would tell me, you know, how fortunate I was to get the job. And I was going like, okay, you know, and then I get in and I see the competition that was here. And it was like, and I give a special shout out to Coach Nichols, because word go when I was here, went to meetings with the coaches. He was, coach, whatever I need to do, whatever you need from me, just let me know.
Yeah.
He was always helpful, always kind to me. And so, and then, you know, I started seeing the coaches. I had worked camp with Coach Carabine a long time ago at A&M, and you know, I think he was at Sweeney or something like that at the time. And so got to know him a little bit. And then Ralph Farley, I met Coach Farley up in, when I was in Tatum, because he was up in Kilgore as the head coach.
Okay.
So I knew him from there. So in those terms, I knew a few people. And so then it was just like, just learning the nature of how good the coaches were here, and how good the talent was here. It just, man, it was a great experience for me as coming in, and wouldn't have had it any other way, because we talk all the time about, you know, this generation misses the fact that every night of varsity, everybody was playing at the same spot, and so there was no secrets in your team. Everybody knew every player up and down the line, so there was no secrets.
I'm glad you said that, Coach. Coach, do you miss that? You like kind of just play, instead of playing at home, like 3 games at Hobson, 3 games at Wheeler, like on Tuesdays and Fridays? Because at first I was opposed to it, because I was like, I want people to see people play at home. But now, like the past 2 years, I'm like, they need to actually start putting more games back at Hobson where everybody just plays. So what do you prefer?
because we play a lot of games at Hobson Wheeler.
Yeah.
That's fine with me. But I do miss that atmosphere.
Yeah.
Because and the kids, even when we play over there, it's not the same because you don't have that number of people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was a playoff atmosphere every Tuesday and Friday.
Yes.
Because it was just a full gym full of people.
Mm-hmm.
And so you show up at 4, stay to 9:30, 10 o'clock. And so I miss that type of atmosphere when you play like that. But, you know, I understand, you know, playing at home and the home gyms and things like that. But I thought it really gave Fort Bend an upper hand when we went to play in the playoffs because we were used to that playoff atmosphere.
Yes.
All year long.
Yes, yes. Coach, you started off 05-06. Surprisingly, I didn't know that you started 05-06. I thought it was the year after. You said you didn't make the playoffs that year. Mm-hmm. So just talk about that first year and then all of a sudden turning it around the next year to be one of the top teams in the state.
You know, the first year here was me learning the players learning me. Probably if I had to do it all over again with the knowledge I had after the season, I probably would have had a couple of other guys up on the varsity that may have been able to help that were sophomores at the time, because I really didn't know them. Had, you know, kind of grown up a different way of doing things. Yeah. And one of the key things, as I was telling you earlier, a cog to that next year team, Tony McCray didn't play as a junior because of health reasons, and it may have been a little bit different story. We were right on the cusp of playing, as I remember. I think we were one place out of making the playoffs. So I felt like we had a good team, had some guys coming back, although we lost some good players, guys that played hard, but they established how we were going to play. They played the way I wanted them to play. They played real hard, never out of any game. We were always in games, and they established the culture of how we were going to be here at Elkins High School. And I enjoyed coaching them because they played hard. They left it all on the floor. And so they set the tone for the guys who were juniors on that team for the next year. Once we got Tony back and moved some other guys up, then it was, you know, off to the races from there.
Coach, before I kind of get to the good stuff, in my opinion, I do have to ask you a question. Coach, I would say you're one of the pioneers at doing it, and I felt like this is what had made Elkins so special. Coach, as a 13-year-old seventh grader, I walked in here. Coach, talk about you just opening up the gyms in the summertime. And it's just not just Elkins guys coming here. People like around the city got word that over the summer, Elkins was the hotbed to come play basketball over the summer, open gym. You were there, sitting right there at this table right here to my left, taking score. If you did not get here on time, you might not even get to play. Coach, talk about the precedent culture that you set in these legendary open gyms, because people were coming from all over the city just to come run this way and this way. As a seventh grader, I couldn't even play on this side. I said, I can't play on this side. I got to play with these guys over here. So just talk about what you kind of said, because you did a lot for a lot of people's progression in the game of basketball.
I wish I could take credit for all of that. It was really set in place before I got here. Okay. They played open gym like that, and I was a person that always believed in open gym because that's where, you know, I was raised. Yeah. And then the places I had been before, it was, you know, open gym was where we got a chance to, you know, sharpen the tools in our tool belt. And so we just kept that going. Yeah. And Coach Mark Brunson, who was here.
Coach Brunson.
He's the one that told me how they did it before I got here, and we just kept that up. Mm-hmm. And you know, it was good to see different people come in, because I always felt like it was going to make our players better.
Yeah.
Having to go against better players, and so it was a gym full of people, and they were playing hard. They were trying to play to win, because if you didn't win, you had to get on the next list, and you'd have to try to wait to get back up. And so it was a combat out here, and you know. I miss those days too.
Yes.
Where you had people from Hightower, from Marshall, from Dulles, from wherever coming over to play in open gym, and we just welcomed anybody that was here.
1st to 7.
Yep.
1st to 7.
As long as you didn't cause trouble, you could come in and play.
Yes.
So yeah, we were good.
Coach, 06, 07. A legendary Elkins team. I was in 8th grade. I said, like I told you earlier, one of my best friends in the world, Robin Igbinoba, he said, Matthew, Dante, Tony, and Jeff, I don't know if I saw pure basketball and pure athletes like those guys. You just kind of go up in the 3rd round. You go against a state experienced team in Kingwood. We know what Kingwood, who they were, and who the guys that has went through there, and former state champions. Just talk about that experience as a head coach in a playoff game like that.
It was a good experience, and I don't know if you knew at the time, that was a 3rd round game.
Yes.
In the 2nd round game we played, I believe it was Beaumont Westbrook.
Okay.
It was
the defending champions right now in 5A.
Yeah. And so we were out ahead and won by pretty good the 2nd round game, but within that game, Tony McCray turned his ankle and had a severe ankle sprain. So we went into that game with Tony not at full speed, not making excuses, but it was a good experience for us to go against them at that time, because they were one of the top teams in the state. At that time, with the guys that they had coming, and we were looking forward to that challenge, and we were just trying to put our name on the map. At that time, with being able to play with teams of that caliber, and those guys got out there, and they, as I recall, it was a pretty good game. Of course, they won and whatnot, but those guys established a winning start type of culture for us under my regime, because like I said, we didn't make it our 1st year, so we wanted to try to make it the 2nd year, and those guys were really, really good players. Tony went on to play at Nebraska. And then Dante started at Seminole Junior College, but ended up going to Central Oklahoma, becoming a Division II All-American.
And Jeff went to Oklahoma Christian.
And he started there for 4 years. And so those guys were really good players. I was really fortunate to come in and being able to coach players like that caliber of players.
And then, Coach, we get to 08. Coach, I'm 08. Coach, listen, Coach, that was my freshman year. So, the Elston Turners, the Devin Whites, the Jack Hills, the Josh Mishas, Gordon Ball, Steve, Brandon Thompson, Nick Hartwell. Coach, there is a lot of, to me, lost titles. I think 08 was one of them. One district, 3rd round game against Dulles. You beat Dulles twice previously in that season. But the one thing that you've always said, it's always tough to beat a team 3 times. Coach, when you go back in that game, what do you feel about that team? Was there a certain play that you kind of knew, this is not our night? And what do you say to a team like that in the locker room, knowing that a lot of people, because Dulles went on to go to state, even though they lost to Willie Warren and North Crowley, but everybody in the back of their mind in this city thought that that's where Elkins was supposed to be in 2008.
I agree with that assessment. Our leading scorer was 1 of 9 on that night.
He was. And I get on him every time I see him.
So, got to factor that in. And I'm not so sure, because I say this about coaches, we put our high school coaches, we put our lives in the hands of teenagers, and we never know what teenagers are going through. And so I think there was some overconfidence in it. Mm-hmm. A coach had one of our students who was on the varsity team but didn't play that much, say that we were going to win that game. It wasn't worried about playing Dulles, that we were going to win that game. So all those kind of things, that mindset goes in, and I think we may have taken it for granted. And I think in the course of the game, I know I made a sub that if I had to do it again, I wouldn't have made it, but it is what it is. So you try to.
Coach, do you know what I vividly remember the next day after that game?
What was it?
Coach, as soon as you lost that game, the very next day or maybe the very next week, that's when I was still in the basketball period, we started running the Princeton offense. That's all I'm going to say. I said, hold up. Because I know Dulles is known for the Princeton offense, the backdoor cuts. But as soon as that game, the very next, because all year, I remember 2 plays, Kansas and Gator. Those were the unstoppable plays. Kansas in the 2-3, Gator for man-to-man. As soon as Dulles got us, get to the read spot, cut, pop out.
But it's not Princeton.
Okay.
It's 5 out.
5 out, okay.
Okay, but it does incorporate backdoor cuts.
Yes.
And the reason why I went to that, because we were losing the Jack Hills and the Gordon Balls.
Okay.
Gordon was still with us.
Yeah.
But the tall guys we had, like Tony and Dante and Mishaw and all those guys.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't have tall guys like that anymore.
Okay.
We had more guys around the 6'3" type deal. Yeah. And so I wanted to run a 5 out type offense which is what we still run till today. Yeah. Don't get the backdoor cuts that we want, but anyway, that's what that was. It was 5 out, but yes, the reason why was because of the personnel that we were having come back. So.
And Coach, your 09 squad, a lot of people slept on that 09 squad, a 4th seed. But you guys make it to the regional tournament, 4 rounds, and capped off in the 3rd round with Miles Dixon hitting one of the most incredible shots in Elkins history to defeat Coach Courtney and George Bush. Talk about that time, because Coach, I feel like there was a game that you guys had to play against Marshall to even kind of get in the playoffs in the 4th round.
Against Kipner.
Yeah, against Kipner to get in. So just talk about how that team was motivated, because I saw different Miles and Miles Dixon and Nick Hartwell. Those were the guys that was really the leaders. And Steve, I can't forget about Big Steve, because he was on varsity the year before. So just talk about the mentality for that team to kind of push through, knowing that there was a lot of naysayers in the cities, like Elkins is not the same.
People always, to a certain extent, slept on us, and so that wasn't unusual at that time. That group was special to me because that was my freshman group when I first got here. So the 09 group was a special group for me because I came in 05, 06, and so that was my freshman class. So Miles and Nick and all those were the freshmen that came in with me. And so they just played really hard, played together, didn't have a whole lot of size, but had an unmistakable score in Miles, and then had a unmistakable leader in Nick Harwell, and then all the other guys were willing to do their part to try to help, get us, over the hump. And so those guys just played well together. And, Aaron Harwell.
Ron Hunt was big in that playoff.
Yeah, I mean, those guys as a coach, what you like is when you have guys that believe in you like you believe in them. And I believe those guys were like that. because I was the coach when they came in, and they were the guys that were here when I came in, we had a special relationship with each other because of that. And so they were willing to go that extra mile. And this is what I say is because we had to play so hard to get in, and this is where those big crowds and playing every Tuesday and Friday, in front of crowds, the guys just learned it was just always playoff basketball, so we'd have to win games at the end. We weren't running away from anybody because we didn't have more talent than they did. We just had to outwork them, and that's what they did. And then we were fortunate enough to win that Kempner game. We were fortunate. That was a close game to win that, to even make it into the playoffs. And so then for us to then win that game in the manner that we did, with Miles hitting a shot, to win, that's something that always, vividly. And the thing that sticks out in my mind, I'll tell this, I don't know, I may remember it differently than Nick does, but, we called a timeout, drew up a play, and Nick was going to throw the ball in. Nick was going to give it to Miles. Miles outscoring,
Yeah.
And so drew it up, had this in mind, and we break huddle and go out, and Nick tells somebody else to take the ball out.
Only the Nick away. Oh,
and so I'm going like, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, no more timeouts. So we go there, and so Nick waiting for the guy to give him the ball.
Yeah.
And so he passed the ball to Nick, and Nick set it up, kicked it to Miles. Miles rose up and hit it. The rest is history.
The rest is history, yes.
We all, I guess, knew Miles was going to take the shot.
We know. Everybody knows. Everybody knows he's taking the shot.
Nick wanted to make sure that he, I don't think selfishly, it wasn't selfishly, he knew that could get him open to get the shot that he needed to get.
Yeah.
And it worked out. And so I always say that players make the plays. I've just been, the recipient of of the great fortune of having players that understood the game of basketball and played to win.
Coach, I know that you're not one of those guys I can really ask you who your favorite players were, but there's one specific guy that I do want to talk about, and I've always believed, and I've said it, he's the only guy that I believe that should have played on varsity as a freshman. I want you to talk about this one specific guy and kind of like who he was, and I felt like this guy embodied the Elkins way as an Elkins player, Bradford Jones. I think he's the only guy in Elkins under your regime that ever averaged 20. He's the only guy, but the thing about it is he played the right way, he played hard, and he was a hell of a teammate. And honestly, the reason why I want to talk about him because he's a guy that's in this Fort Bend era that was with the D'Angelos and the Jonathan Jordans, the Daniel Houses, and the Harrison twins. He was just as good as them. And I've told him that repeatedly. One of my best friends just talk about what he kind of meant to this program.
It meant a lot to this program. Meant a lot to me. I don't know that he should have been on varsity as a freshman, because that freshman class that he was with was really, really, really talented.
He was really good, but Coach, I'm just saying is, Coach, I saw him as a seventh grader at Open Gym. The way that he was getting people, I was like, he doesn't need to play freshman.
To a certain extent, you're right. Yeah. But I would just say this about Branford. Branford played the right way. He wasn't flashy or anything, just solid fundamentally, good shooter. I mean, him along, and there's been a few others here and there, I would say that, but he couldn't shoot too much for me. I mean, every shot he took, I thought it was going in. Yeah. And because I just had that kind of confidence with him, and he had the old school mid-range off the backboard, up and unders, pivoting, and all that.
Offensive rebound, tip it in, you look up, he has 15 or 20.
I tell stories about him. He's 8 of 11,
Yes.
7 of 10.
Yes.
It's always his shooting percentage was just great, great. So, and then he played defense, on top of it, was smart, not overly loud or anything like that.
Never.
But he had a killer instinct, and that group right there was a really good group. 2012.
Yes.
Yeah, they were
second
they were
round
really,
against North Shore.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. When he came in, he would have came in the 08, 09.
With Miles and all those guys.
Yeah, he would have been. So the person that was the leader in that group was going to be Miles and Nick and Aaron and Javon and Tori and Hollis and all those guys right there. So those guys, it was going to be hard for anybody. And Dudley was on that team as well.
The only
with that
sophomore.
group.
Yes.
So it was going to be tough for anybody with that group right there, and he came along at the right time and he filled in. When he moved up to the varsity, he got all the playing time he wanted and needed.
He did
because we had to have him. He was a good player for us.
Coach, 2014. Can you kind of just talk about that year personally? Because I said I know that you kind of just went through. That was the year that you were out a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, it was more about life than basketball, Coach. Like, you didn't coach in those playoff games, Coach. Like, obviously, we know what, Coach. I got to coach. I got to ask, Coach. Coach, I got to ask, because that was a time that people were really concerned. Like, you're not on the sidelines. Yeah. I just want to know that year how tough it was, because when I heard that, I was just like, what? Coach T is not coaching in a playoff game. We didn't know if you were gonna be okay. Talk about that year, because I know that was tough, but I know that's something that I really wanted to ask you, because the way that I feel like it almost changed perspective, not just on the game of basketball, but on life. Kind of talk about that.
Prior to this year, 2013 was the last time we didn't make the playoffs.
Yes, Coach.
Okay.
I know.
So,
yes, sir.
Coming out of that year, it was really on my mind to get back into the playoffs.
Yes, sir.
A lot of things were going on, so my focus was really trying to get us back. Stay up late watching film, doing this, doing that, and then in the midst of that, my daughter was going through a health situation. Mm-hmm. They found out that she had a kidney disorder, and so that was weighing on my mind as we were going through that, because she would get bloated and just in and out till they figured out what was wrong with her. And so trying to get us back into the playoffs, some other stuff going on, pushing everything, trying to get back into the playoffs. And so I had a stroke.
Yes.
And when I had the stroke, we had played a game. We played against Dulles to establish who the 3rd and 4th place team was.
Yes.
And we played that night. If I'm not mistaken, it may have been on Valentine's Day. We played that night. My daughter was in the hospital. So we played that game that night. And so the next day, on a Saturday, that we played on that Friday, I went to the hospital on that Saturday to visit my daughter. We practiced that Saturday morning. Then I went to the hospital with my daughter to spend time with her. I'm sitting there watching film. And so my wife and my kids noticed something going on with me. And, I tried to play it off, I'm just tired, whatever. And so called the doctors in and whatever, so whatnot. And so they found that I had a stroke. The doctors don't know. It's 2 reasons you could have a stroke. Could be a clot, or it could be a spike in your blood pressure. I've had high blood pressure, so they think it was the blood pressure is what ended up happening. I was watching film and watching a basketball game at the same time when it occurred in the hospital with my daughter. So that did give me some different perspective on things during that time. And so when I came back a little bit different than what I was, keeping my emotions under control. Especially with the group I had at that time.
Coach, we're going to get to that. Coach, we're going to get to that. We're going to get to that.
That group required a lot of patience on my part, which has been a really good thing for me. So it was just a lot going on during that time, and it just was fortunate that when it occurred in the hospital, and so they took me from, my daughter was in Texas Children's, to right across the street, to the hospital. And so, everything came fine, had some adjustments. I wasn't taking any medication for blood pressure at the time. Did that, some blood thinners in case it was a clot. And, I'll go to the doctor on a regular basis, yearly basis, and try to keep up with things like that.
Gotcha.
With my health. So, it's one of those deals where I was fortunate that where it occurred. So I always say the man above takes care of me. He puts me where I need to be, like I'm supposed to be. So just fortunate.
I appreciate that, Coach. That's one of the questions that I know that I kind of wanted to until I'm a historian, so Coach, so you know. And then, Coach, you're right. The team that you had the year after, 2015, Coach. Obviously, Nathaniel, Bryce Terrell, Ken Busby, Tyreek, Eddie, Chad Bowie, those guys, Coach. And Coach, I kind of felt like you came back a little different, like not only prospectively of your life, but also the gameplay. Coach, I know you for a long time, and some of these players with the high, colorful socks, I said, hold up, Coach. You would tell us to take that off. There was a lot of stuff that you guys were almost jumping and pressing. That was almost as close as Showtime of an Elkins team that you're gonna get to. So just talk about that team. And I actually got a quick story for you, a quick story for you about that team.
And here's the thing, is that I really like that style of play.
Yeah.
If you get the guys that can do it.
Yeah.
And those were guys that could do it.
They can.
Because when they were freshmen in open gym, they would run and trap all the time.
Yeah.
And it didn't make a difference what size the guys were.
And I heard they were beating the seniors as freshmen in open gym sometimes.
Yeah. And so they would trap. And so I told the freshman coach, I said, man, I was looking up on this pressing and trapping system. I said, here, this is what I want you to install with them. And so we would be ready for it in the coming years.
Yeah.
And I did a little bit of it with Bradford now. We just didn't have the numbers. And so they were able to carry it through. So when they came up, I pretty much knew once I got them all up there that that's what we were going to do with them. We were going to trap so we could play a number of guys. If you recall, when they were juniors, we were pretty much 5 in, 5 out.
Yeah.
And we were doing a lot of pressing and trapping and getting after people with that.
Coach, I got a question, especially with that team, because I still got a bone a little pick with you. I always believed that Tyreek should have been on varsity his sophomore year. I believe that because like Chad came in, played 10 games with JV, and he came from Bel Air and played 10 games, and all of a sudden he was on varsity. And I saw what Tyreek was doing his freshman and sophomore year. And all his boys, at least 5 of them on that freshman team was on varsity as sophomores. Coach, I need an explanation.
You've been around me. What is the main focus of mine?
Defense.
Okay, I always was, because who Tyreek became is not who Tyreek was. Tyreek was, to me, as a youngster, he was a small guy that had a small guy type syndrome. It might not be what he felt like, and so I felt like people could take advantage of him.
Okay.
When he became as a junior and senior,
Yeah.
Tyreek didn't care who he guarded.
Okay.
But as a freshman and a sophomore, I didn't see that.
Okay.
I didn't see that. I
Okay.
didn't see him.
Okay.
I was always concerned about who would he guard. And I tell the players even now, my first thought is, who are you going to guard on this team? Like, we look at who's the next teams next year are going to be good. Yeah. And I tell the guys, I said, okay, who on that team can you guard? Can you guard this guy, this good player? Can you guard this returning starter, this returning all-district player? Can you guard those guys? If I can't safely say that you can do that, then you're not ready for varsity experience. So I'm quite sure there's people that believe that, and I'm not saying what I believe was right or wrong, but that's what I believed.
Okay.
I'm glad that Tyreek came on and did what Tyreek did. Yeah. And as a junior and senior, he was a heck of a player. I had no doubts. He learned to get under people and play them 94 feet where they couldn't take advantage of his size. So, he's one of the all-time, good players the great players at Elkins. It's a long list, but I ain't gonna get into naming it. But he's a player.
Coach, in 2015, I really have to tell you this story. I never felt like I never told you this story. I don't know if you really knew. Coach, it was a Saturday, and that junior class, I spent a lot of time with them because obviously, what am I, Bryce Terrell, we're close like this. Yeah. I told them, literally, I said, I know how Elkins history goes when they were juniors. I said, let me tell you something right now. If the game is close, the senior is taking the shot. I told them that on a Saturday. I think you guys play Beaumont Ozan on maybe that Tuesday or Friday. So I felt like that your junior year, that junior team, that was a state team. Coach, all I'm saying is this. I'll remember the play like yesterday. Nate goes 1-4 high. It's a spread. That man is in the corner. That man is on the wing. He drives to the basket and gets blocked. You guys lose by 1 because Bryce hits a half-court shot at the end, but you guys were already down by 3. So I told them, hey, listen, that's why Ken Busby came up to me after the game. He said, Easy, he was crying with tears. You told me that was going to happen. You told me that was going to happen. But I whispered in his ear, and I told him, don't worry about it. You guys will be in state next year. 2016 comes. Coach, it's the regional final. I'm going to gloss over the 16 season. I want to go straight to the playoffs because you guys, obviously the banner is right there, 36-3. 13-1 in district, and honestly, Coach, I was at the game, that one game y'all lost to Bush. That should have never happened. I'm still mad about that game. 36-3, but you guys make it all the way to the state championship. But before you guys win the Outback tournament in a legendary game against Sam Houston and Kendrick Davis, I don't think I missed the Elkins game that year. But I'm gonna go to the 5th round game against Beaumont Ozan, the team that you lost to the year before. I believe you guys were down 15 down 15 at one point in that game. And then that third quarter, you guys started making the comeback. I don't know if I saw a better defensive fourth quarter from Ansu Cisse on a guy in Josh Boyd who was cooking all night, but the fourth quarter, Cisse just decided that we're not losing to them back-to-back years. We're getting the state. Talk about that specific game, because that's the most emotion I've ever seen you have when you held up that trophy as a regional champion saying, we're going to state. Elkins Knights are going to state.
Okay. We got to go back to 2015.
Go back to 2015.
Okay. In the game you're talking about.
Yes.
All right. So I think we were down by 3, and a timeout was called, and we're breaking the huddle. Josh Boyd was the problem.
That year?
That year.
Okay.
He was, and so but they had another kid
smaller kid. Jordan Hunter.
That went to New Mexico.
Yeah, Jordan Hunter, yeah.
So I told Nate to guard Jordan Hunter.
Okay.
I told Chad to guard.
Josh Boyd.
Right. We break huddle. Chad goes and talks to Nate and puts Nate on Josh. He goes guard Jordan because Jordan got the bigger name. He's guarding him. So what do? It may have been they were up by one.
Yeah, I think they were up.
They were up by one.
Yeah.
And so Boyd takes Nate into the paint and rises up over him and shoots it and scores, and that gives them a 3-point lead. Now that's what we were trying to do. So that leads us to, if we're doing 1-4 high, then Nate's supposed to try to get it to somebody else. He ain't supposed to be trying to score. We down by 3. Yeah. So, but in any case, so now we go 2016. So Boyd's giving us the business.
The business.
So so I saw Cisse all the time. We'll switch up how we do defensive stuff in practice and stuff. And I saw that Cisse could move his feet when we doing Z drill and stuff like that. So I tell him, I said, Cisse, you guard Boyd. And somebody goes, oh, coach, no. And I believe it was Chad. Chad said, trust him. And so we go back out, and Cisse takes all that getting into the paint stuff away.
Yes.
And so now we, threw water on that, so now we could come back. So the 15 season led us to the 16 season.
Yes, sir.
The lessons you learn from that.
Yes, sir.
And so those guys didn't want to lose. I didn't want to lose another one to that. And so it was, we had been to that top, several times or close to that. We hadn't got over the hump. And so it was a feeling of joy to get over the hump with that group of guys going through all the things that we had to go through in 14, 15 to get to 16 and all that kind of stuff. They were a special group of guys who, what they taught me though was this, the biggest thing they taught me, because they were a competitive group.
Oh, I know.
Very ultra competitive.
Yes.
And so practices were almost like fights.
Yeah.
And so, but the thing about them was I'd get upset and try to break them up and all this and getting upset about them. And they sitting there arguing, fussing and fighting and almost coming to blows, and me getting in between them. I'm getting my blood pressure up, trying to stay calm. And then they all get in the same car and go home. So I'm getting worked up over nothing. They gonna say they sitting there, it's just like brothers and sisters or whatever. So they all get in the car, they get in the same car, and they get over it. And I'm sitting, I said, I'm the only one upset. So I said, I'm gonna stop upsetting myself. And so from then up point that time on, I just started doing that right there. So,
Coach, you go to the the state semis that year. I think you guys beat Fort Worth Wyatt. It was Fort Worth Dunbar. You guys beat them by like at least 20, and then you faced the eventual state champions in Lancaster. Coach, I would say this: is there a play in the game that you believe that kind of changed the game? Because I have a play in my head always, but I want to know if there's a play in your head in that game that kind of just
in the Lancaster game.
Yeah.
Not right offhand, I can't think.
For me, I've always said this. It was in the fourth quarter. And I would never tell him this because I love him. There was a point blank shot with Bryce.
Yeah, I knew you.
I always say if that shot goes in, Elkins are state champions. Because it literally rolled in like this and popped out. I said that was the shot. I said because it was funny. And the reason why I said it too, when I went back and watched the Dallas news, they even said it. The point blank shot by Bryce Terrell just rolls in and out. I feel if that shot goes in, Elkins are sitting here as state champions. But just talk about your state championship experience, like in that game.
Well, it was a great experience. I'll tell people at the time, as a young coach or even an older coach, you go there and went to many state tournaments and you're sitting up in the stands watching down. It was like surreal to be on the floor looking up, because the whole time knowing that that would be a goal of mine, is to make it to the state tournament, make it there, play it there. We'd like to win it sometime, but so it was always it was a really, really good experience of getting there and playing there, sharing it with people. The best thing about it was I didn't realize how many people in the community follow, basketball and Elkins basketball at that point in time. Because you'd go somewhere and, you'd meet somebody and tell you, they watch the game, they follow the team, the whole 9 yards. And so that's really when I started realizing, as much as ever, what kind of effect advancing that far has on a community and how it can bring a community together. And so that was the thing I was most happy about, was how it brought us together as a community, an Elkins community, and us as a team.
Coach, obviously there has been a plethora more of great teams. Like I said, 18, I was there in the regional finals when you took the loss to Port Arthur. I believe 19 was a lost title. 2020, I felt like Elkins was just a little too young at the time. And I think 2020, that was COVID year too. And then 2021, it was just another heartbreaker to me against Summer Creek at Del Mar. But Coach, out of all these years, what can you just kind of describe, like, what has been your feelings in coaching for Elkins for almost 17, 18 plus years?
This is my 20th year.
It is your 20th year, 0506. I'm sorry, 20 plus years.
Yeah. So I've enjoyed my experience, and I tell some of the players here, and people ask me why, this or that happened, or in terms of our success and what can I attribute it to. And I attribute it to having players who believed in what we were doing and were able to put up with me. By no stretch of the imagination do I think it's been easy to play for me. And, I wouldn't have it any other way, because I try to be coaching a way, like I said, I want somebody to coach me. And they allowed me to coach them. And as much as anything, this year has really made me appreciate it even more, is their parents allowing me to coach them. They allowed me to coach them the way I needed to, allowed their kids to grow up and understand that I have their best interests at heart. And the thing that everybody needs to understand is I got into this to help students become good adults. It just so happened that I've had success in basketball. I just thought it was an avenue for me to get my message across. And so I care as much about them as people as anything as basketball players. In fact, 2 weeks ago, I had a former student, not player, send me an email saying, thanking me for what I did for them when they were in high school. And so that's why I've enjoyed this Elkins community, is the people I've come across like you, the Hamiltons, the Joneses, and I can just keep going on, and I don't want to leave anybody out. Yeah. But the 20 years that I've been here, I've just had a great time. The administrators that have been here allowed me to coach. The athletic directors that had faith in me coming in. And so all of that is attributed to whatever success we've had. Not in no way want any credit or look at it on that. I'm just a guy that came in trying to coach.
Coach, who is your coaching, not kind of coaching rival, but you got to kind of get up and saying, yo, like who is that guy for you?
I don't think you could. For me, I couldn't say it's one, because that's just like if I tell players, this is your rival team, and you get up for them, and then that means don't get up for somebody else.
But I know there's more so there's coaches like you.
I just say guys that you enjoy coaching. Yeah. It really. Someone said this to me a long time ago, Coach Ament he's athletic director, assistant athletic director for Cy Fair. We played a few times. He said, you rather get your butt kicked by friends than anybody else. So it's friendships that I appreciate. So I enjoy going against Coach Courtney. I count him as a friend of mine. Coach Wilson over at Manville. Okay. He's a friend of mine, and it's a lot of other guys. Coach Flores over at Cy Falls. Yeah. I enjoy playing his teams. Count him as a friend, and it's just so many guys within this. Craig over at Travis. We've been through it. For all these many years.
Coach, I know.
Yeah.
I know,
so so it's always been good to go up against him. So, it's just the friendships that you build through coaching against each other, and it's the same way. Even with some guys that I knew at A&M, we played against intramurally and recreationally. When I came here to Elkins, I didn't know that they had gone to Clements or here or there, and then I ran into them. And so we talk about the wars we played against each other and how they built friendships for us. And so I think in coaching it's the same thing. So it's not anybody in particular I get up for. I want to try to get up for every game that we can and treat everyone the same with respect. But you definitely enjoy, going against friends, people you count as your friends.
Coach, I hope you could answer this one question. Give me your Mount Rushmore of Fort Bend coaches.
Oh,
Coach Brownson answered it. Coach, if you had in Fort Bend basketball coaches, Mount Rushmore.
Because I ain't been in Fort Bend all my life. So, all the lives of Fort Bend, how can I? But you'll just like, I'm just going to tell you. Just like they asked me, if you would ask me who's my Mount Rushmore of Elkins basketball players, I wouldn't give you a Mount Rushmore.
I wasn't gonna even ask you that. But okay.
The same reason. I'm not gonna give you.
Okay. Can you give me at least the top 3 guys you've ever faced in Fort Bend? Not as coaches, but players come through here. In your opinion, that you faced.
It's the same thing. You would say, it continues on. Oh man, come on, dude. I'm just gonna, you start throwing out names like, Daniel House.
Yeah.
Was it Jonathan Jordan?
Yes.
The Harrison. You go the Harrison twins, the Angelo Harrison, Dre Harrison. Yeah. The Gallegos twins.
Abel and Thomas.
Yeah, those guys. Junior Treasure, Ray Penn,
Cameron
Ridley. Yeah, he was a big guy. Was it Jordan Clarkson and then the other kid that was with him?
Darius Richardson.
Yeah, man, those
Roy,
guys. Yeah, man, it's a bunch of good players that have come through here. I've enjoyed, coaching against them and watching them play. Devon,
yes,
good player. It's funny. PJ Haggerty was here at one time.
Point.
Was here at one time to see him. You just sit there. So it's just been so many good players that have come through here that you just enjoy watching. And even talking about guys that come through here. So we hadn't mentioned a guy like Stretch Collins.
Yes, Stretch Collins.
And guys like that that come through. Jacoby Harrison, Josh Daniels,
Chris Johnson,
other world. So it's just this has been a talent-rich district.
And Coach, I really have 2 more questions for you. The first question is, Coach, can you just talk about, because I'm personally close with at least two assistant coaches of yours, but can you just talk about the impactfulness they've made on this program in Coach Jonathan Hamilton and a Coach Demetrius Blair, and obviously Danielle Bro is on your staff too. I call her the greatest women's player that ever walked through Elkins. So just talk about those, knowing that people that have been in Elkins is coming back to kind of just coach with Elkins with you?
Coach Blair, he's a Fort Bend product.
Yeah.
So, just seeing people come back, they want to give back to their school and in their community. And it's funny because Coach Hamilton, Jonathan and Danielle, Coach Bro, they care about all sports here. You can tell that they're Elkins products because they want everybody, and they get upset when the teams are not good. They take it personally because they got a school pride. And Coach Blair, the same thing in terms of Fort Bend, and he's poured his heart into all kinds of different athletes around here in middle school and as they come up. And so it's just good to see people who have a love of teaching and coaching, and they really do. And so they're good representatives of the products that Fort Bend has put out. And there's some people that you can take pride in the fact that you've been associated with them. They're guys that they're coaches. They always support the team, support me. Look out for me, look out for the team, look out for the players. And they care for them, like I said, more than just as athletes. They care for them as people. And so you always want to be surrounded by people like that. Coach Masculine, he's from the Fort Bend area. We went to Needville, but when you have people who care about people in the area, so the coaching staff that I have here is really good staff that I've had. I can't get into comparisons with that either, but they're really good staff and they got the best interests at heart. And I've been fortunate once again to be able to work with people of that caliber.
And my last question, who is Coach Thomas?
Just a guy from Corpus Christi.
I like it. Coach, I do have some closing statements. Coach, I really wanted to say this, and I'm really glad that I'm here, and I really kind of want to say this. Coach, you mean a lot to me, and I know there were some times that we've had our battles, and 10th grade when you cut me, when I'm not gonna say you cut me, I cut myself because I failed 3 classes. And the thing is, you gave chance after chance. Coach, there was a long time in my life, maybe for a 4 to 5, 6 year period, that I had disdain for you. Like I just think like when I saw you, but I've always respected what you've done. But I just think personally, it was a bad taste in my mouth. But like I had to look in the mirror and realize it wasn't him, it was you. So for you to kind of take your time out to do this for me, it means wonders. Because like basketball is all I knew. Like grade wise, like you say me being a historian, I just didn't think I was a smart kid. I just knew that, but my brain and the way basketball worked, it's been like this since 3rd grade. You ask me stats, you ask me throwback stuff, that's how I was. Right. So one of the biggest regrets of my life was really never playing for you. That's why I just said, like, I've always stayed here as a fan. I always stayed here, even when say, hey, you want to transfer? I said, that's not what I want to do. I've always wanted to play for you. And that was I've always wanted to tell you and tell you face to face, my biggest regret in my life is never playing for you. But I knew that for a long time I blamed you. I blamed you, Coach. And I just want to say, I know you didn't know, but I want to apologize for that. But now that I know that I'm, 32 years old, 15 years from now, whoever would have thought that I'm literally teaching the subject that I didn't even like. I'm actually getting into coaching, and even when I coach some of the kids, some of the stuff that I learned is still from you. Wow. So like you've always just kind of just been a part of me in that way. I want to give you your flowers, but for a very, very long time, I put a lot of my wrongdoings on you, and it's just as a man, I just wanted to tell you that I apologize.
I appreciate you saying that. I never really knew that. You said battles, I've given you a hard time, but it's always, been out of love and the fact that I like what you were doing in terms of coming in and trying to film or make a way for yourself and things of that nature like that. So whenever I got on to you, it was because more out of jest than anything else, in terms of after you graduated. But you know, I always know, because I didn't appreciate what my mom did for me until after you get older. I feel like sometimes that students don't appreciate what their teachers or parents do for them until they get older and they start realizing, oh yeah, these are the lessons that they were trying to teach me. And so that's, I'm glad you said that, because you know, that makes me feel good that, you know, somehow you became introspective and you looked within yourself, and that's what we all have to do at some point in time.
Yes, sir. And I guess the last question, Coach, before that, is there anybody that you would want to see on the Easy Corner?
Easy. I've never seen the Easy Corner, so I don't.
Okay.
I don't know.
No, but okay. If there's a, okay, you know what? That's fair.
You know, probably the Coach Courtney would be one.
Okay.
But you know, good friends of mine that, you know, reach out. You over in A-Leaf, Coach Collins over at Hastings.
Okay.
He's a good friend of mine.
Yeah. Okay.
And then Coach Wilson over at Manville.
Okay.
So,
okay.
You know,
I can make that.
Those are two good guys, you know, in terms of basketball, that, you know, kind of like we throw things off of each other in terms of the coaching and, you know, things like that.
I got you, Coach. This has been another episode of the Easy Corner. I'm here with, I call him the GOAT, Coach Thomas out of Elkins High School.